Merry Christmas to all of you. It is Christmas Eve today or tonight, whenever you're watching this. And this year I wanted to do something a little bit different, something special, where I just talk about a few Christmas movies that I watch every single Christmas season. And just to be clear, there are a few films that I will mention that I cannot include because I've only seen them once or I don't watch them every single year. To qualify, that means that I've seen the film 3 or more times, so there are a few films here that either I watched for the first time this year or I watched for the first time last year, and I'm gonna watch this year again. So Love Actually, I watched for the first time last year, and I'm gonna watch it hopefully this year. I got a lot of movies to cram into like tonight and even tomorrow on Christmas Day. And then It's a Wonderful Life, I just watched for the first time last night and I reviewed. And then The Santa Claus, I also watched for the first time this year. I know it's crazy, but I can't include these on the list because I've only seen them each once. And Love Actually, it'll be twice, but still, I won't include it. But let's just get straight into it. I'm gonna go in release order just so there's no ranking or whatever. But if you wanna see me rank these films, you can follow me on Letterboxd at @YouinReviews, of course. But starting off, we have Die Hard, which it is my favorite. It's a lot of people's favorite. It's Die Hard. I mean, come on. I remember first watching Die Hard back in 2017 for the first time. It wasn't Christmas, but I was watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and I was like, oh, what's this movie I've heard about? And Jake Peralta keeps mentioning it. I watched it, and instantly it became one of my favorites. That was a weak slap, that's what I meant. And I've watched this movie probably 7 times since, because I've probably watched it once or twice every single year, and it's phenomenal. It's in my top 10, I think, top 10, for sure top like 15 of all time. It always has been. I think the John McTiernan's direction, I love Predator. It's another one of my favorite action movies. But Die Hard is on this other level where it mixes these amazing action sequences with some little Christmas jokes within it, and this whole Christmas spirit, because this is a Christmas movie because it takes place on Christmas Eve. It's a stupid argument when people say that it isn't. And it just makes for this really fun and exciting and intense movie. Hans Gruber, played by Alan Rickman, is one of my favorite villains of all time. I actually have the Funko Pop. This right here, one of my favorite villains of all time. So many cool lines. And yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker. Next up, we have Christmas Vacation, and this was a film. I have a really fun story. I'm telling stories with all these films because I find that more interesting to hear about, and of course I'll talk about what I think of the movie too. But the first time I watched it, it was December 23rd, 2015, because I remember the next day we were going to see The Force Awakens, and check out my Instagram for a post about that. But I remember watching it at my best friend Logan's house, which before he moved and just moved down the street. Anyway, I remember watching it in his basement, and my dad came over like 30 minutes into the movie, and he's like, oh, he loves it, by the way. He's like, oh, why aren't we watching Return of the Jedi? Because of course it was going into Force Awakens. And we were watching it, and it's the first movie I can remember watching and uncontrollably laugh. And I was still laughing at the last scene, even if it was 10 minutes into the next one, because I don't know, it was like a different humor, and just, it was stuff that I'd never heard before, and it was so funny. I still consider this one of the 10, 15 funniest movies ever. It's one of my favorite comedies, where I just laugh through the whole thing. Like, not even a joke will be happening, and I just be laughing like silently like this, because I just found the last bit so funny. And this is a really special movie because of that, and I watch it every year. And back in 2018, I watched this one over 5 times, I think, in December, because I watched it at home, at school, with my family, with my friends, and like all this stuff Christmas Eve. I watched it a ton that year. It has some insanely quotable lines, and the rant at the end is one of the funniest scenes in any film. I remember as a kid, like younger than when I first saw it, I was only allowed to watch the whole sledding scene where it just goes through. And oh, I love this movie so much. It makes me laugh every single time. Even though I know the jokes, and I can say almost every single one of them in the movie, it still makes me laugh, and that's a massive compliment. Then we have Home Alone 1 and 2, because they're both great films. I do prefer Home Alone 1 by quite a bit. I still really like Home Alone 2, and I did a review for Home Alone with Chris from Film Stock, and then I did a movie night for Home Alone 2 Lost in New York. And my thoughts on the actual movie are all in my review, and then Home Alone 2 is kind of in the movie night for that. But I always remember watching these at my cousin's house, my younger cousin's house, up north in Ontario, and they're so special because I have such great memories with them. Not so much the sequels after 2, because Jesus. And they always bring a smile to my face. It really captures that Christmas spirit. It really shocks me because Joe Pesci did this the same year as Goodfellas. I say that every single time I talk about Home Alone, and it still surprises me. I love his performance, I love Daniel Stern, and of course Macaulay Culkin, one of the best child performances ever for both Home Alone 1 and 2. I do prefer the first one, and the second one though is also really good. It plays with some really interesting concepts, and I said this in my movie night too, but every time I see the brick throwing scene there, I can always hear my cousins laugh in the back of my head, and that's really special. And now we have a curveball. Jingle All The Way from 1996 is a horrible movie, but it's also a perfect movie because it's one of the most entertaining, bizarre, and crazy movies I've ever seen. I first watched this when I was they kind of started puberty, so all the testosterone, all that, and I was really on an Arnold kick for like half the year. And I still love a ton of his movies. He's great. And here, oh my god, this movie is bizarre. Sinbad too, but when you're fighting Santa Claus, you're diving into ball pits trying to get a ball for a toy. At the end, he's in the costume and he's using his jetpack and fighting Sinbad, who's playing the villain. And it is a crazy movie with young Anakin Skywalker, Jake Lloyd. It's a movie that I will fully admit is a horrible, terrible movie. The writing, everything, the acting is really entertaining. It's not a good movie, but it's one that I also love, and I have to give a big credit for that because it's not really well made, but at the same time, it's made perfectly because it entertains you and it makes me laugh like really hard because I'm more so laughing at the movie than with the movie, if you know what I mean. But it's so entertaining and I love watching it. I always have a good time. It always puts me in a good mood, and that's really what a Christmas movie needs to do, is just to put you in a good mood. That's what Jingle All The Way does. I love Arnold in the movie too. It's not that good, but it's also a Christmas classic that I love. And finally we have Elf. Now Elf I like to consider my family's Christmas movie, and what I mean by that is this is one that I can remember watching back when I was really young, and I can't remember the first time I saw it, but I've seen it every single year, about twice, every single holiday season, every single year since I first watched it. And Will Ferrell is lovable as this character. Part of me says it's his best performance, but there are so many. Anchorman, Talladega Nights, there's so many movies, and I can't decide his best, but this is up there with one of them. It's one of my favorite performances in all of Christmas movies just because he's so hilarious here. The character of Buddy the Elf is one that everyone loves. If you say you don't like the character of Buddy the Elf, you don't have a soul. And I really mean that. I honestly think that Elf is one of the most well-made Christmas movies ever. Jon Favreau, he did something special here because there's so many scenes, like there's the one where it's just Will Ferrell and a camera guy and going through New York, and he's like, oh, Santa, Santa, he's jumping through the lines. And it's one of the most quotable. Son of a Nutcracker, the four main food groups, candy, candy canes, candy corn, syrup. Stuff like that. I remember watching it back, this is probably in 2016, back at my elementary school, and my dad was like, oh, I'm surprised they're playing this because it's PG and not G, obviously, because they're playing it in elementary school, on the screen, laying in the gym on the mat. If any of these movies make me smile the most, I will say Elf. Elf is the most Christmas movie out of all the Christmas movies, and I love everything about it, and I love basically almost everything about all these movies, with the exception of Jingle All The Way and parts of Home Alone 2. I still really like it. But what are the Christmas movies you watch every single year? Please tell me what they are down below. Do you have similar ones to me? Because I feel like a lot of people will have Home Alone, Elf, Die Hard, Christmas Vacation, all these. They're some of my favorite Christmas movies of all time. Some of these, like Die Hard, are some of my favorites of all time. I'll see you guys tomorrow for a Christmas haul. Merry Christmas once again, and I'll see you guys next time. Over and out.